Hi, and welcome back to Book, Stage and Screen. We've got the talented Michael Wagner joining us today. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Samantha. How are you? Hi, Gordon.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
Now, I met you with a few of my tribe at the Werribee Plaza Library when you did a storyboard workshop.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it was great. You were really wonderful. You really got them enthused and were including them, and I think they came out knowing more about story than they ever have. So,
oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear it.
Which means that it must mean that you're a wonderful storyteller.
Mm.
Well, I guess that's what I'm sort of paid to do. So I hope I'm reasonable at it.
So I just had a look at you online. You're quite a prolific writer. How many books have you got out at the moment?
Well, it's 70-something. I'm not sure if it's 73 or 4 or what quite we're up to, but it's a bit more than 70.
That's amazing. And you've got one coming out soon, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I've got a book called So Wrong, which is a kind of a book for 10 to 12-year-olds, really, or maybe 10 to 13-year-olds, but particularly emphasising reluctant readers.
Okay.
Over the years, what I've discovered from letters from parents and teachers and others is that my books appeal a bit to reluctant readers. So I've sort of gone the whole hog and really tried to make something that has enormous appeal, hopefully, to reluctant readers in particular. So, but by which I mean I've added as much humour and lots of visuals and a very sort of almost a hyperactive kind of structure where there's a little bit of something, then a break to something else, then a back to that first thing, then another break, and then a short break, and then another new thing, and it's really. It's hopefully the reader won't get bored too quickly by it.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you test that? Have you got children that you sort of give it to them, or do you have someone that's trained in that area of that you would give to them as well? How would you go about that?
I've got a bit of both of those things, but also I do a lot of talks in schools, and which means I get to test a lot of material in front of a live audience,
fantastic.
And it's unbelievably valuable to just read a story to a bunch of kids, because you soon know if it's going to be.
Yes, they don't like keeping things secret, do they?
No, they don't, and if they and it's just, but also, equally, well, in the same vein, if they love something, you know they love it. So there's this incredible silence sometimes when you're reading a story. If it's got an exciting moment or a very moving moment, there's this really deep silence that you sort of sense in the room, but also there's a big outburst of laughter if you've hit the joke well.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and it's so funny because kids have one set of taste buds and the rest of us have another. So most sensible people have another.
Yeah.
So the thing that you sort of think a little cringe-worthy, they laugh hysterically at.
Yeah.
And like there's a little ad for a made-up school called Nude School in So Wrong. And now that's kind of cringeworthy, very cringeworthy to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But when kids hear it, they just respond to the absurdity of it, and they really think it's funny. So so it's great. It's just invaluable to test stuff on a live audience.
And what attracted you to becoming a children's author? Were you always that way inclined, or were you writing, adult books or teen romance novels and just sort of landed where you've landed, or was it always that way? How did you sort of...
Well, no, it's incredibly just luck. But because I really didn't picture myself as an author at any stage until I became one. But what I'd written just prior to that was some episodes of a TV show called Old Tom, and also some other animated television as well.
Yep.
And an old friend of mine who'd started her own publishing company, children's book publishing company, just asked me if I'd like to have a go at writing a couple of books for an educational series on the strength of the fact that I'd written things for a child audience. And And, my wife is actually a very well-established children's author herself and publisher.
Yep.
But I figured that was her thing, and mine was more screen-based.
Yep.
But I wrote these two books. I had a single day in order to write them, so I wrote one in the morning, one in the afternoon, but they were very short.
Yeah.
And they both got published, and they both sold well. And I thought, well, maybe it kind of suits me. I enjoyed doing it, and maybe it's something I could do more of. And then I submitted a series a couple of years later called Max Rumble, and that ended up being sort of, that we published 16 books in the next year of that, and another novel as well. So
that was 8 days' work, those 16 books, or
sorry,
was that 8 days' work for those 16 books, or am I wrong?
It wasn't far off that, Gordon. It was actually, it wasn't. They were very short, again, 1,000 words, and they just poured out. Nowadays, 70 books later, the same process would take me 2 months. But at the time, it was just, they just poured out. Mm-hmm. So, so very short books, and very enjoyable and silly and fun for me to write. Came from a very authentic place. So it was kind of easy and successful. In fact, I find the harder a book is for me to write, the less successful it's going to be in the end.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And do you find, like, kids, obviously, the world has changed for them in so many ways in terms of technology and forms of entertainment for them. And so did you have to adapt your stories over the years, or do you just think a story for kids is always just going to resonate, because it has themes and jokes that they're always going to, sort of universal?
Look, I think that I think stories and books in particular, they do something completely different from what interactive or screen-based entertainment does. So, and I think that there are a lot of children who just are actually much more drawn to a book than they are to those other forms of entertainment. But the kids who tend to like my books are also the ones who like that sort of entertainment. Yeah. So you've got to compete with that. I feel I am in competition with that. And whenever I write a book, I just think to myself, why would a kid read this book instead of playing Pokemon Go or whatever the thing is at the moment? Yeah. Why would they do that? Yeah. And I think, well, it has to be funnier. It has to be. It has to have the same level of pace or action. Yep. And it has to be rich in ideas. If I can get enough into them. A lot of reluctant readers are smart kids but disengaged with books. Yeah. And so the whole objective is to keep them engaged, and that's the pacing, the ideas, the humour, and the action. And, it's all of those, every trick in the book, literally, you can get to keep them there is required. And, so I guess that's my aim, is just to keep them engaged. And I do see all those other forms of entertainment as competition in one way, but in another way they're a different thing. So they're not entirely.
And we had a school holiday special on last week where we had 4 children in the booth here with us, and they were all quite avid little readers, and the books that they loved are the books which are like yours, where there's wonderfully illustrated in amongst all the words. Is that what you'd prefer? Or, because I've looked at your books, they've got fantastic artwork in them. How does that union happen? How do you decide on there's a picture going here or what?
Well, that's either made by the publisher or by myself in concert with the illustrator. But my preference is to get as many illustrations as you can and get as few words as you can. But not to the point where it's a comic or a cartoon strip, but to the point where, just to get that balance where a kid who'd rather be reading a comic is reading a book and feeling better about themselves. Yeah. So, but it has the same level of difficulty, or only slightly harder going than a comic. So my personal preference is as many illustrations as possible, and they layer in all sorts of different ideas and humour and even just artwork. Some of the design that's been done by Wayne Bryant, we've created So Wrong Together. Some of just the sheer design is beautiful. Even though it's really ridiculous and silly, it's still also, to my mind, it's really quite beautiful in the way some of those old cartoons and comic books are really beautiful.
Yeah.
They're just you don't use the word beautiful with them because they're often frivolous and fun. So you tend to sort of just write the whole thing off. But actually, sometimes the artwork's really quite amazing. So, yeah, but I think artwork is just another trick, to get the kids engaged and keep them there. So, to my mind, that's, I'll use anything to get these kids reading a book, and to keep them reading one more book, just one more book, and just as long as possible. And then after they've read that one, just one more after that.
Well, the beauty is with a lot of your work is that you do have one more. There's series of them. So, when kids do like something, it's like adults. If you look around for the author and you think, what else have they written? You like their worlds that they create or their tone or their voice or whatever. And with kids, especially, as you say, with artwork, it's a big blend for them, and they're like, it's great. What else can I read? And as a mum and dad and grandma, you're like, this, my God, where can we buy it? You don't want to waste a second of them not having it. So you go to libraries and, Big W and all those kind of places and source them out.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that, one of the things that, one of the many sort of dozens of things that books do for us is they validate us. And once you find an author who's got a similar way of thinking to you, even if that thinking is expressed in humour, but it feels validating. It feels like, I've met a like mind.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit less alone in the world,
Yeah.
And so when you've met a like mind, you want to keep talking to that like mind. So it's good if that mindset is expressed through a lot of books. It's quite easy then. You feel so comforted by the little world they've created that you want to just get back into it. So, so I think that I think that if you have that kind of voice and you naturally can write a series, then that's beneficial, especially for those little reluctant readers who just, who are so fussy.
Like fussy eaters, but yeah.
But readers.
You've worked out a way to add, healthy, exciting things with broccoli, but in book form. But
in words.
If that makes sense.
That's exactly it. You're feeding them broccoli, but it's coming out of a chip packet.
Yeah, there you go. In fact, that could probably be an idea for a funny children's book. Can I also ask, roughly then, where are you at with So What as an example? How many words? So we just played So What, the Pink song. I was trying to match it up with your book. So Wrong. How many words is that roughly? If we're to pin you down and make you.
Do you know, I actually don't know because of the way the book's assembled in little bits and pieces. I don't know that we ever did a count on a single manuscript, but on it as a single manuscript. So my guess is, just looking at it, I'm guessing it's only about 4,000 or 5,000 words, but it's 192 pages. So it feels, to look at, it looks like it's a substantial book, but to read, it's super quick.
Yeah.
It's really a very easy, it really skips along. So, so we've disguised it as a book that looks like it's for kids who are good, solid readers, but then inside it's a super light read that's, they'll feel proud of themselves because they've got through it so quickly.
Yeah, that's great. Well done. You could write a cookbook of how to...
Ticked a few good boxes.
Yeah, how to hide the broccoli. Now, if for someone out there who might be thinking, I'd like to have a go at writing a children's book, is there some sort of advice you could give them?
Well, there's about 4,000 pieces of advice I could give. One of them would be to just read a few contemporary books, the ones that have been successful.
Yep.
But also find your DNA as an author, as a writer. So if you're, sometimes we want to do things for intellectual reasons, but not for instinctive reasons.
Yep.
So, part of me, when I write my frivolous little stories and funny little stories, part of me says, oh, that's not, you should be writing serious adult stories.
Yep.
But that's just not my DNA.
Yeah.
So I could do that, but I'd be wasting my time.
Yeah.
And they could possibly get published, but they wouldn't sell well, and they would be ultimately a bit of a waste of time because my intellect wants me to do something clever, but my instinct is to do something fun. And I think that's the most important thing. Find out what you actually are good at writing and then stick to that.
Yeah.
But don't be led too much by your ego or your intellect. Make sure that you're having fun while you're writing, and then you'll know that's where your instinct wants to be.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice.
I hope so.
Well, it sounds like you're having lots of fun writing your books, which obviously comes through on the page and the kids are really picking up on. So,
oh, that's good.
Well done.
Well, So Wrong is definitely the most fun thing I've ever written. So.
Oh, fabulous. Well, tell us when it's coming out.
It's coming out. It's basically out in a couple of weeks' time. And at the 1st of August is the actual publishing date.
Yep.
Yeah.
And where could we pick up your book?
Well, it's going to be in readings, in a variety of bookshops, lots of children's bookshops around Melbourne, and online, easily online. And you can actually buy it online already.
Okay.
So if you just look up So Wrong, Michael Wagner, you'll find it, and you can buy it online now, or you can just wait for it to appear in readings or any of the Little Book Room and Tim's Bookshop, and Kids Bookshop online, and a whole bunch of other places as well.
Great. And if you're ever in doubt, just look up michaelwagner.com.au. That's your website. It'll have a list, obviously, where you can pick up all your books, your many books. And if you'd like to know more, and obviously you said you get some feedback from teachers and parents and readers themselves, no doubt.
Yes, I have. Some of the feedback I've got is actually sort of almost makes you cry.
Oh.
I remember one particular piece of feedback which was just beautiful, about a child who got into my series called The Undies, which is about a real family whose surname is Undy, which is a true surname. Yeah. But this person was she was a teacher, and she couldn't get her son to read at all, and he discovered The Undies, and they said they caught him reading secretly by torchlight under his schooner after bedtime, and they said they didn't know if they should scold him or cheer. They were so thrilled that what he was reading, of course, was The Undies, but it was, that sort of thing makes you really feel like you're doing something worthwhile.
Yep, fantastic. I mean, that's ideal, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, they're reading, and hopefully that goes on. The love of reading stays with them once they're out of school and, sort of finished education. If they're still a good reader, it's only a benefit for them.
Absolutely, and I think that there is a school of thought that reading is a habit, and so basically you establishing that. I feel like my job is to establish the habit. So to get the kid who doesn't really like reading to read, and then to develop a habit of reading, even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes a day, and then. Because I do think that once they've established a habit, they'll be okay with reading. Yeah. And it won't be such a chore. If they've got no habit of reading, then suddenly reading Shakespeare in high school, it's just going to be painful. Yeah. But if they read naturally anyway, then it's not such a chore to read a book that's hard to read. Yeah. So I think my objective is to establish the habit, and then the other different authors come in and they build on that.
Yeah, well, lovely. That's a great place to be, and you've certainly 73 books. You certainly give your audience a a great variety to start. So thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. We look forward to reading your next book, So Wrong, Uncensored. It sounds hilarious. We'll be getting one for our little tribe, I think. And hopefully with your next book, you'll come back and tell us all about it.
I would love to. Thanks so much for having me, Samantha and Gordon.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Bye.